Including us, and we do it again. Including us, and we don't want to guard the.
Before we begin, I'd like to welcome members of the public to this resumed open session, but also request that our audience respect the meeting space of the Board of Governors and remain in the audience section so that the university is able to efficiently conduct its business and ensure other members of the public can hear the proceedings. Thank you. If any of today's speakers have handouts, I just ask that you hand them to Associate Secretary Malolo at the end of the table. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Secretary. Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to make the board aware of a number of important events here at Rutgers in the last month. First, last summer, you'll recall that I appointed Chris Malloy as the interim chancellor of Rutgers, New Brunswick. Chris served 5 years as the senior vice president for research and economic development here at Rutgers, and before that, he was the dean of the Ernest Marriott School of Pharmacy. He was the interim provost for biomedical and health sciences during the time when we were doing the integration and led our integration office. He was also the interim chancellor of Rutgers Biomedical and Health Sciences, not to mention the fact that he's been at Rutgers on and off and goes back to his student days as an undergraduate professional degrees. I'm pleased to inform you today that after consultation with both of the boards and with all the members of the 2017 Chancellor Search Committee who are still present here at Rutgers, and with the individual and unanimous approval of those individuals that I talked to, I am removing the interim title from Chris's title. He is now the Chancellor of Rutgers, New Brunswick. I was also able to speak with the president of our university Senate as we move forward. So now Chris is our permanent chancellor and joins the ranks of our other 3 chancellors here at New Brunswick. He's a strong and steady leader who I think brings deep understanding of the institution to the future and a clarity of vision, stable leadership, and continued excellence in leading Rutgers, New Brunswick. So Chris, thanks for joining us in a formal capacity, and thanks for everything you've done in the first 6 months you've done.
Please join me in congratulating Chris and thank you.
Bob, I don't have much to say other than thank you and hold that board and you down as my alma mater here. Thanks.
Okay. Secondly, I'd like to bring your attention to some of the activities of our students early in the scholarship season, but already we've learned that Rutgers once again was a top producer of Fulbright students. It's our 10th straight year to be among the top producers. We sent 23 students on Fulbright grants in 2018-19, and that ranks us 9th among research universities and 2nd best among the public research universities. So we rank right at the top, and only Michigan and Northwestern produced more Fulbrights than Rutgers did last year. We've also been notified that we've been awarded, our students have been awarded 1 Gates Cambridge scholarship and 2 Schwarzman scholarships. So already we're off to a great season, recognizing the excellence of our students. And after all, it is the output of the university that matters. It's where our students go, what they achieve, and what they can accomplish. So this is a great start. I'm really, really pleased for them. I think they deserve a round of applause. The university budget process is in full swing. I don't have to tell you what a challenge it's going to be during the next fiscal year and the year after that, not just because of the increased costs that contract settlements are bringing, but also because of the limit in enrollment that we've reached in most of our campuses. I can tell you that the pressure on our central offices has been extremely strong, and that we've asked our central offices to absorb the entire cost of projected salary increases and to reduce their overall expenses year on year. That means that in essence, we have about a 1.4% increase after all that's said and done, which is between a 1 and a 1.5% decrease in budgets in these areas. Now the focus shifts over to the chancellor's areas as they not halfway there, but in fact, we're 4.2% ahead of our target for the first 2 quarters because of cyclicity, which fundraising works in a calendar year. The next point I want to raise is to bring your attention to the action of our legislature, our governor signing into law the $15 minimum wage act, and to point out to you that that will raise minimum wage to $10 on July 1st, and then by $1 an hour for every year after that until it reaches the $50 rate. So the state will catch up to where Rutgers is now by a year from this July. And at that point, of course, we will be in cycle with them for any additional increases that are legislated. And I just might point out for the board's edification that no one in our bargaining units has an hourly rate, which is less than that $50 an hour now. When you add the benefits that our workers have, their actual compensation is in the high 20s. So I think we're in good shape there. The next is the scheduling system. You know we've been working hard to put together a single scheduling system that would look at first-year housing, assignment classrooms, assignment classes and instructors, and scheduling of buses. There's been a huge operation. We actually decided to delay final implementation for 1 semester. We've gone through 2 shadow runs already, but we want to be absolutely sure that we have all the faculty preferences in place and that everything works out correctly. So we're doing 1 more shadow run, comparing what the system would predict to where we think it ought to be. And then we will go live at the end of April for scheduling that will be for the following spring. In the meantime, we're doing workshops and town hall meetings across the university with our faculty and our students to let them know and let them ask questions to make sure everybody's up to speed. We've developed a web-based portal for faculty to put their preferences into so that we don't have to go after them with paper or phone calls. And I'm pretty pleased with where we are on that. We want to make sure it goes without a hitch. And that was the only reason why we pushed off for a semester of the final implementation. Contract negotiations continue. We have reached agreement with 40 unions. And they've been ratified. We've reached an agreement with the 5th union, which is now going out for ratification. So I can tell you more about that. Our sessions continue. We've had 57 sessions with our faculty unions of various sorts, 8 with our residents and 55 with our staff. We're committed to working through and achieving a fair and equitable contract with all of our employees, and at the same time recognize the tremendous financial pressures that the university is under and the limits to what we can in fact do. I've also increased, I've announced an increase of 3% for our non-aligned staff. I did before Christmas do that for our staff up to the managerial roles, and in January we announced the same increase for the remainder of our non-aligned employees up to the administrative council at my senior staff level. So they're getting the same raise that has been given to the unions that have already settled with us. So basically the same cash value to them. The next issue that we should know about is the proposed changes to Title IX. You probably have read about some of the proposals from Secretary DeVos that would change the way allegations of sexual misconduct are handled on university campuses. There was an open period of comment from universities and colleges and academics around the country. We're now in that open period. I have asked for a committee to be put together, and Barbara has done that for us, and a committee with faculty, administration, and student representation from Newark, New Brunswick, and Camden. They have generated a document that represents the response of the community to be sent back to Secretary DeVos on a number of key issues, and they include the requirements related to the lifetime cross-examination of either party in the dispute. The second, the proposed dismissal of complaints that occur off campus or outside the institution's program or activity. And you can understand that if that were in place, most of the events that we deal with would not be considered, or could not be considered, because they're just off our campus. It makes no sense at all. sort through those 200 and to come up with a shorter list. And the concept is to convene a 1 to 2 day retreat, if you will, with our friends and donors and alumni and support from the university, and present to them the top ideas out of this group, and to listen to their feedback, and then to give all those ideas to the chancellors and the deans and to me to think about and see which ones we can move forward. So it's actually very exciting. Looking forward to hear how this plays out, and hopefully that'll be done by the end of this academic year. And Mr. Chairman, that's it.
Thank you, Dr. Borgi. Questions from Dr. Borgi? Before we go on to the next item of business, it's my pleasure to welcome and recognize Dr. David Kimball, our new Senior Vice President for Research and Economic Development. It's very nice to see you at this table. We should just look at you. We are now on to our presentation by the Director of the Rutgers Cancer Institute of New Jersey, and call on Dr. Lee. Podium, please. Welcome, and thank you for traveling these perilous conditions to be with us today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, President Barchi, for having me today. And thank you all for braving the precipitation this morning and this afternoon. My task today is to give an update on the Rutgers Cancer Institute of New Jersey. And I'd like to do so by sort of putting it in context in terms of our role in the state of New Jersey and the great opportunities that are afforded to both research and care delivery for cancer treatments by the new relationship between Rutgers and the RWJ Rutgers Health System. So, some statistics that I think are important in terms of putting this all in perspective. As many of you know, the state of New Jersey is the most densely populated state in the United States, 8.9 million population within roughly 8,700 square miles. We're the fourth most ethnically diverse state in the U.S., and we're fifth in cancer incidence with a relatively high mortality. That's not a number we want to see ourselves rise to number one. In fact, we'd like to move in the other direction in terms of incidence. And we have significant racial, ethnic, and socioeconomic disparities throughout the state, not only in cancer incidence and mortality, but in access to care and barriers preventing folks from getting good care. If you look at these two heat maps of the state, let's see if my laser pointer works, not really. If you look on the left-hand side, that's cancer incidence by county throughout New Jersey, and the darker blue indicates a higher number of cases per 100,000. And if you look on the right, that's cancer mortality. Same definition, darker color, higher number per 100,000. And you can see that there are significant regional differences, both in cancer incidence and cancer mortality. And you can also see by this map where we have both locations of our physical acute care facilities, the 13 hospitals, both adult and children's, of the health system, as well as state-wide partners that help us to access patients in those communities. So, if you look at this setting, fifth highest incidence of cancer in the United States, significant barriers to both access to care, significant differences across socioeconomic barriers and others that lead to differences in cancer incidence and mortality. The Cancer Institute of New Jersey began its existence in this very complex environment in 1992. And it was first established as a component of UMD&J. It became part of Rutgers University, as all of you know, in July of 2013 as a result of the Medical and Health Sciences Education Restructuring Act. We're one of the nation's now 50 National Cancer Institute designated comprehensive cancer centers. Just this week, NYU's cancer center became comprehensive. So it switched from being a clinical cancer center to comprehensive, bringing the number to 50. So we're one of 50 in the US and the only one in the state of New Jersey. We're made up of 230 scientists from both Rutgers and Princeton. We're actually somewhat unique among our peers at comprehensive cancer centers that we are a consortia of the largest state university and the largest private university in the state. Our researchers garner close to $120 million a year annually in federal, state, and private funding to fund studies in basic and translational research. And as an NCI designated comprehensive cancer center and being part of a Big Ten university, we're actually a member of the Big Ten Cancer Research Consortia, which are the cancer centers of all of the Big Ten universities collaborating with each other around basic science initiatives, but very importantly, all participate in joint clinical trial efforts where we can open each other's clinical trials at each of the sites. So our vision and mission is essentially to be New Jersey's resource and leader in cancer research, prevention, diagnosis, treatment, surveillance, and survivorship. So the entire spectrum and continuum of the cancer problem and cancer care. We endeavor to lead in basic science discovery, translate our findings from our laboratories into the clinic, enhance access to cutting-edge clinical trials, provide exceptional multidisciplinary care, and educate both clinicians and patients in order to expand our outreach and positive engagement across our catchment area, which is the entire state of New Jersey. This is our administrative leadership. I have been blessed by having an exceptional team, many of whom were here before I arrived, and several in the slide are folks that I've recruited in the 2 years since I took on this role. These folks are responsible not only for providing leadership here at Rutgers for the clinical care that we deliver in New Brunswick and our research and translational enterprise, but many serve as leaders across the health system as we expand our cancer delivery network and provide integrated care across a larger area of our catchment area. This is our senior scientific leadership. These are the folks responsible for achieving that NCI designation, which, as I mentioned already, is coveted. There aren't that many comprehensive cancer centers, and it's highly competitive. This designation is afforded as the result of a grant process. You apply for a grant with a very large, approximately 2,000-page written grant submission. You're then site visited by teams from across the country, and then it goes up to the NCI for final determination about awarding the designation. And that designation is good for 5 years. So we're in a 5-year cycle. We renewed last April. The new grant will be issued March 1st of this year and will be revisited in 4 years. And so it's a never-ending cycle of preparing for this. And this is the leadership team that allows that to happen. Associate directors of clinical research, basic research, administration and planning, consortium research, which oversees the relationship with Princeton, research and education, population research, translation research, and community outreach and engagement. This just shows that organizational chart. We have 5 scientific programs that fall under the responsibility of the associate directors, each led by 2 program leaders. In many cases, these programs are led by faculty from Rutgers and from Princeton. And we have a number of shared resources that help provide the support for the science that we drive. We're also now, as a result of the new relationship between Rutgers and the RWJ Barnabas Health System, we are responsible for oncology services across the entire health system continuum. And so similar members of that leadership team have direct responsibility over all of the sites across the network. And there are administrators at each of the hospitals across RWJ Barnabas that report into this centralized leadership structure to make sure that we're coordinating not only the delivery of care, but the allocation of resources to build this program across as large a footprint as we can. These are our clinical leaders here based in New Brunswick that lead various disciplines from surgical oncology through radiation oncology, medical oncology, bone marrow transplant, our phase 1 units, etc. Each of them experts in particular areas of cancer research and cancer care delivery. We have a number of multidisciplinary subspecialty teams that encompass both common cancers as well as rare cancer types, and we serve as essentially a quaternary resource to the rest of the health system for patients diagnosed anywhere in the health system with a complex cancer problem that can be referred to our site here in New Brunswick. This is just a graphic that shows over the last 2 years the changes, or last 3 years really, the changes we've seen in patient visits and new patient visits especially, the largest increase being the calendar year 2018, where we saw a rise of 10% in total patient visits and 12% in new patient visits. And we believe this is really driven by two forces. One, we've been much more aggressive in the market in terms of advertising and outreach to let folks know that they have a comprehensive cancer center right here in the state, and there's really no need to travel to New York or Philadelphia to get that care. But I think as importantly, because of this distributed network that we've established with the health system, we're seeing internal referrals within the network of the most complex cases to here in New Brunswick. And these, I should mention, are the visits to our campus here in New Brunswick at the Cancer Institute. As a question, how many folks in the room, and this question has no political overtones, how many folks in the room actually saw the State of the Union address this year? And willing to admit that they watched it. Very good. Thank you, John Hoffman, for supporting me with your vote in that. If you did see the State of the Union address, you'll have noticed that one of the guests at the State of the Union was a young girl, Grace Aline, who had been diagnosed with a brain cancer that had been cured. And much of that was made at the State of the Union. Well, Grace was first seen at Newark Beth Israel Hospital, where her brain cancer was diagnosed. And after determining that they did not have the level of specialization to be able to treat her, she was referred down here to the Cancer Institute in New Jersey, where we treated her at our proton therapy center and cured her of her brain cancer. And so an example highlighted on the national stage of what we have the capability and capacity to do right here in the state of New Jersey. So Grace did not have to travel to centers in New York or Philly or Houston. She was able to get outstanding care right here in New Jersey and was cured of her brain tumor. So we have, as I mentioned, 5 research programs and a number of shared resources that help to support those efforts. Our science is focused in a number of areas that are really cutting-edge areas of cancer discovery. Cancer metabolism and growth, our cancer immunology efforts are based in that program. Genome instability, cancer pharmacology, precision therapeutics, and of course prevention and control. The relationship with the health system, as I mentioned, gives us a true opportunity across the entire state for us to expand our clinical trials network and our offerings. Our real goal is that no patient in New Jersey needs to travel more than 20 or 30 minutes to get exceptional care or the opportunity to enroll in a cutting-edge clinical trial. We truly have a unique opportunity with this consortium relationship with Princeton to truly leverage the unique strengths of each institution. And it's really an example of 1 + 1 is more than 2. We have outstanding programs in cancer metabolism with great collaborations on both campuses, growing efforts between both campuses in cancer pharmacology and a small molecule screening program, and many other opportunities to expand the depth of the science that we're able to perform. And so we look for every opportunity to craft novel ways for us to work more closely together with our Princeton colleagues in cancer research. We also provide for Princeton really the only clinical outlet for their investigators to be able to engage not only in access to clinical samples, but also participation in clinical trials as part of the intellectual drivers of the design of those studies. One of the things that I think is particularly important and a place where we could truly make a major impact as a comprehensive cancer center is in early detection and cancer prevention. And when I arrived 2 years ago, I noted, not unlike other states, that there was a lack of full engagement for cancer screening in the most common cancer types that we see in the state. So among the most common cancers in New Jersey are lung cancer and colon cancer, two of the most common cancers seen nationwide. But our screening rates were not at the level that one would hope they would be, as both screening for colon and lung cancer can result in improved survival for both of those cancer types. And so working very closely with Pete McDonough and his team in legislative affairs, we were able to approach the state of New Jersey and make a fairly compelling case for investment in improving our screening of both lung and colon cancer. And the state invested in, and together with both investments from Rutgers and the health system, we created Screen NJ, which is a partnership of institutions across the state of New Jersey to try to increase the rates of colon and lung cancer screening. And we're hoping to build on this with other cancer types. So when we first launched officially in fiscal year 2018, we had the following partner sites that were basically concentrated in 3 counties. We recruited Anita Kinney, who's our Associate Director for Community Outreach and Engagement, and Anita built on the efforts of Candace Botnick, Mary Adele, and others that initiated this program, and was able to, in this current fiscal year, greatly expand the number of partners. And I'm told as of yesterday, we're actually in 18 counties throughout the state. So just 3 more to go to run the table on having sites partnered with us for screening for both colon and lung cancer. So we're hoping that this initiative continues to gather the support of the state. I certainly conveyed to the state that with that same investment they made in the first year with us in 3 counties, we're still expanding and now in 18 counties, and so hopefully that will be sustained moving forward. Many of you may have read or heard about the fact that in the United States over the last 25 years we've seen a 27% drop in cancer mortality. I asked our state's cancer registry to pull the same data for the state of New Jersey, and we've actually seen a 34% drop in cancer mortality in the state of New Jersey. And if you break that down into terciles and look at times of years, 75 to 91, 91 to 2001, 2001 to 2015, you can see that in the first 75 to 91, we actually saw increasing mortality rates in the state. And we saw a transition point around 91 and 92. And over the next 10 years, began to see a decline, and that decline accelerated between 2001 and 2015, a greater decrease or a larger slope in the negative direction. And so I think the investment of the federal government, the state of New Jersey, now Rutgers University, and the health system in having a comprehensive cancer center in the state has paid some dividends. I don't think we can take all the credit for this decrease in mortality, but I think we certainly play a role in driving decreased cancer incidence and mortality. We've made a large effort over the last 2 years to have some key leadership recruitments, and I've been very fortunate to recruit some talented investigators from around the country here to New Brunswick to help drive our science, translation, and clinical care. Dr. Howard Hoxter is our Associate Director for Clinical Research, and I was successful in recruiting him from Yale University's Cancer Center last year. He's a medical oncologist internationally known for his expertise in gastrointestinal malignancies. Dr. Wabi Arap is an internationally recognized expert in genitourinary malignancies and was recruited from the University of New Mexico, where he was the Deputy Director of their Cancer Center and is now leading our clinical cancer program at University Hospital in Newark. Dr. Renata Pasqualini is a translational scientist who focuses on targeted therapies. We recruited her from the University of New Mexico as well, and she leads a division of cancer biology within the Department of Radiation Oncology. Dr. Richard Alexander was recruited as the Chief Surgical Officer and Chief of Surgical Oncology from the University of Maryland. Before that, he was at the National Cancer Institute. And Rich is an expert in GI malignancies, including pancreatic cancer and peritoneal mesothelioma. Dr. Andy Evans was formerly the Director of the Cancer Center at Tufts and we recruited him to be our Associate Director for Clinical Services and Medical Director across our service line. And Dr. Peter Pohl, who began his career at CIMJ, left for a faculty position at Albert Einstein College of Medicine, and we were successful in recruiting Peter back as the Chief of Pediatric Oncology, and he's the first holder of the Embrace Kids Endowed Chair in Pediatric Oncology. And then finally, Anita Kinney, who's the Associate Director for Community Outreach and Engagement. Anita joins us from the University of New Mexico and leads our efforts in engaging the community and our Screen NJ program. All told, over the past 24 months, we've recruited approximately 34 basic, clinical, and population researchers to the Cancer Institute. Training the next generation of researchers is a very big part of our mission, and this starts as early as we can get our hands on them. And so we have a number of opportunities for high school students to participate in laboratories within the Cancer Institute. But the greatest impact I think we've had on the largest number of students has been through our partnership with Discovery Education and an online module called Decoding Cancer. We design and provide the curriculum for this module, and it has so far reached over 1.5 million teachers and students nationwide. We also have a number of undergraduate students that come from both Rutgers and other undergraduate universities that spend time in our research laboratories. We also have postdoctoral and pre-doctoral trainees from a number of different schools across Rutgers, as well as clinical postgraduate programs where we train physicians as residents and as fellows within the Institute. So just a few scientific highlights, just to demonstrate where some of our scientific focus is and how we're hoping to make progress in better understanding cancer and developing new therapies. As I mentioned earlier, one of the main areas of science that we are focused on is cancer metabolism. This is essentially how do cancer cells process nutrients and grow? What makes them different than normal cells? And how can we, by understanding these differences, potentially develop new therapies that are toxic to the cancer and safer for normal tissues? And so this is an example of some science performed by Drs. Eileen White and Josh Rabinowitz. Eileen White is here at Rutgers, Josh Rabinowitz is at Princeton, and this work sort of highlights that collaboration, where they were able to determine that cancer cells or tumor cells really rely on circulating lactate as opposed to typical fuel source for normal cells like glucose. And this understanding may allow us to target the processing of lactate as a unique way to target cancer metabolism and therefore effectively treat these tumor cells and prevent them from getting the fuel they need to grow. Our cancer prevention and control program has been very focused on tobacco control. And this program, co-led by Melissa Bandera and Chris Del Nivo, has focused on strategies to decrease folks taking up the habit of smoking, but also cigarette manufacturers sort of leveraging tactics that might make cigarettes and cigars more attractive for folks to start. And they found that tobacco manufacturers were skirting some of the laws around cigarettes by making small cigars and then flavoring and coloring those small cigars, since they were cigars, not cigarettes, and therefore not forbidden or legislated against by the Food and Drug Administration. And they were very successful. This is our investigators in getting past both legislation at the state and national level to consider small cigars the same as cigarettes. They've also been very effective, that is our cancer prevention and control program, in getting laws passed at the state and national level on tanning beds and making sure that folks under the age of 18 are not allowed to use tanning beds, which increase the risk of skin cancers. A little bit on facilities. The most physical manifestation of the cancer program is our 225,000 square foot building in New Brunswick, which is right across the street from RWJ University Hospital and connected by a sky bridge. We also have space in the hospital for our hematologic malignancies and bone marrow transplant program. And we have a number of other programs scattered across New Brunswick in order to take advantage of space for both administrative needs and clinical care needs. And we're essentially elbows to the wall now for both research and clinical space. And as a result, through a careful planning process, we are now moving forward with a new building, which will be constructed in proximity to our current location. That will be anywhere from 300 to 500,000 square feet. That will be built by the health system, but occupied in part by Rutgers and our research programs in order to drive forward basic translational and clinical research. And I have a couple of renderings of that building in a moment. So once constructed and completed, our square footprint will go from just under 250 to 260,000 square feet to close to 750,000 square feet. You can see here, these are two renderings of the building. The one on the left is what the building may look like if it is only outpatient. These outpatient facilities would be both clinic space to see patients, infusion space to give chemotherapy infusions, radiation oncology space to give radiation therapy treatments, imaging, allowing CT scanning, MRI, etc., right there in the same building, and blood draws and other amenities for the patients. On the right, you can see what the building may look like if we include inpatient beds. And there's significant discussion now about including approximately 120 inpatient beds, which would make this the first freestanding cancer hospital in the state of New Jersey. And I think that that in and of itself would greatly accelerate not only the referrals of patients across the state to our institution, but make us a destination outside of New Jersey for folks to come to New Jersey for exceptional cancer care. And these are just a couple of other images. Much of what we're thinking about with this new building takes into account the patient experience. There'll be a lot of open spaces, a lot of green spaces, natural lighting, etc. And we really want to make this a destination within New Brunswick and sort of an anchor building for the community. This is just an example of a rooftop garden that would be a part of the design, and then what the residence would look like as this makes, I think, a very nice footprint within the city of New Brunswick. What's very important to a NCI-designated cancer center is our ability to deliver clinical trials, first in human and cutting-edge, more advanced phase 2 and phase 3 trials. And you can see that over the approximately 7 years between our renewals, 2010 and 11, were our last site visit for redesignation. Our most recent was 2017 into 2018. You can see that we more than doubled our clinical trial accruals, both to interventional accruals and to investigator-initiated accruals. And so this is, I think, a very good barometer of the health of the cancer program, is how many patients you are bringing in to take advantage of new therapeutics that you offer. We partner with a lot of biopharmaceutical companies in New Jersey, and as all of you know, New Jersey is the headquarters for 13 of the top 20 pharmaceutical companies, and we have various types of relationships with all of the ones on this slide, whether it's just clinical trial agreements where we conduct their trials, or development agreements where we work hand in hand with them. As I mentioned already, we're part of the Big Ten Cancer Research Consortia, and I think we do very well among our peers. We're one of the top 3 members of the consortia in terms of clinical trial accruals and in trials opened across the consortia. Our funding, in terms of our research funding from the federal government, this is specifically cancer-focused research funding, increased significantly between 2011 and 2017, and our NCI-specific funding grew by approximately 14% as well. So we're very healthy in terms of external grant funding. And when you look at us as an institution among our peers in the state of New Jersey, you can see that the amount of federal funding that we get from the NIH, that's peer-reviewed funding, is significantly more than even our closest competitor in the state of New Jersey. And a recent study in 2014 that looked at return on investment showed that for every dollar of state appropriation invested in the Cancer Institute, we returned over $13 with respect to federal grants, employee employment, et cetera. So I think we're a pretty good investment for the state. So in summary, I think the Rutgers Cancer Institute derives significant strength from its realignment as an independent unit within Rutgers University. And this gives us the opportunity to collaborate with many different schools and institutes across Rutgers to enrich the breadth and depth of the science that takes place. We have increased NCI and overall peer-reviewed funding since our prior renewal. We've increased our accruals to clinical trials, increased collaborative publications and interactivity across our programs. We will continue to receive significant support from the state. We have statewide recognition, authority, and commitment, and I believe we're well positioned to positively impact our catchment area and beyond. And I'm happy to, if there's time, answer any questions.
We're running a little late, but there is time for a question. Any? Doctor, thank you very much for an excellent presentation.
Sure.
Thank you very much for all you do. We have 5 committees to get through, and Mike Hour's report. I will turn without further delay to Governor Richard Yoker, Chairman of the Committee on Academic and Student Affairs for his committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The committee met on January 29th. The committee heard from Dr. Barbara Lee, Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs, and the Chancellor or Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs from Rutgers University of New York, Rutgers University of Camden, Rutgers Biomedical Health Sciences, and Rutgers University of Brunswick on the topic of student diversity at undergraduate and graduate levels. I encourage the board members to review the posted minutes to learn more in detail about the various initiatives at each institution to improve diversity and access to increase graduation rates. I also must say, however, that several members of the committee were surprised and, dare I say, a bit disappointed to learn that African American students comprise only 7% of the undergraduate enrollment at Rutgers University of Brunswick. We believe the university can do better. Dr. Lee then presented for consideration proposed changes to University Policy 10.1.5 on research centers and institutes, and explained the added provision for centers that are initially approved or terminated by the Board of Governors that was not part of the revised policy presented to the committee in December. A second addition now includes notification instructions to center and institute directors, approvers, and supervisors of any significant changes to the guidelines for submission. The committee agreed to move forward the resolution under the consent agenda to the Board of Governors for approval. Then Dr. Wanda Blanchette, interim provost and executive vice chancellor for Rutgers and Brunswick, stated that the School of Arts and Sciences is proposing the establishment of a Bachelor of Arts in Environmental Studies degree program, offering that received approval at all levels. The committee agreed to recommend for approval to the Board of Governors the resolution under the consent agenda. That was followed by Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs Meredith Daisies at Rutgers University of Camden, who reported on the name change for the Department of Fine Arts in the Faculty of Arts and Sciences, Camden, to the Department of Visual, Media, and Performing Arts. Dr. Blanchette reported that a Rutgers New Brunswick Master of Social Work, Master of Public Policy dual degree program will be offered by the School of Social Work and the Edward J. Blaustein School of Planning and Public Policy. Next, Dr. Storm reported on 2 RBHS matters at the School of Public Health. The first was the Department of Biostatistics and the Department of Epidemiology are being merged and renamed the Department of Biostatistics and Epidemiology. He then stated that the Department of Social and Behavioral Health Sciences and the Department of Health Systems and Policy are being merged and renamed the Department of Health Behavior, Society, and Policy. Both mergers will create a more efficient structure, enhance development, provide administrative support, and the new name discuss faculty and administrative appointment recommendations, as well as promotion recommendations. The committee agreed to recommend to the Board of Governors for approval the academic appointments and promotions involving tenure under the consent agenda. Followed by Dr. Blanchette, who presented for consideration Dr. Brian Lepko, one of the most prominent philosophers of religion of his generation, and an important historian of medieval philosophy, as the initial holder of the William P. Alston Chair for the Philosophy of Religion that was established in 2016. The committee endorsed his appointment and agreed to recommend to the Board of Governors approval of the resolution under the consent agenda. And finally, on behalf of the Committee on Academic and Student Affairs, I now have the pleasure of recommending for the Board's approvals candidates for the award of honorary degrees and commencement speaker at Rutgers University, Newark. First, I would like to present Dorothy Roberts to be named commencement speaker and recipient of an honorary Doctor of Laws degree at the May 2019 commencement ceremony. Ms. Roberts is an extraordinary scholar and social activist at the University of Pennsylvania on law, sociology, race, and social justice, and has worked in medicine, in reproductive rights, criminal justice, and social justice reform, and is currently doing amazing work on the radicalization of biotechnology. She also served on the faculty at Rutgers Law School in Newark. Secondly, I recommend legendary saxophonist and Newark native Wayne Shorter to receive an honorary Doctor of Fine Arts degree at the May 2019 commencement. He is recognized globally as one of the great musicians of our time and has won numerous accolades from a long string of Downbeat Magazine's Best Saxophonist Award to multiple Grammys. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Thank you, Mr. Ogle. We don't need a second yet, but thank you. Before we have a second, I would call to the podium to address us for 2 minutes, please, Ms. Olivia Deanne Wishmeyer, Rutgers student at the School of Environmental and Biological Sciences.
Hello, I'm Olivia, here representing 700 individuals and 14 organizations who joined on to this letter with the coalition of End Assault at Rutgers. Dr. Nabil Adam not only returned to campus amid a sexual assault lawsuit and open EE investigation, but now has returned to campus after violating Title IX policy and misrepresenting facts throughout the investigation. He has refused to provide DNA to cooperate with this investigation. The particulars of this case are not isolated, but systematic of the institutional failings of Rutgers University to provide safe work and learning spaces for its community members. To improve the safety of our community, End Assault at Rutgers and its allies are calling Rutgers to detenure Nabil Adam and any professor found guilty of sexual abuse or harassment. 2, ensure that during Title IX OEE investigations, the accused be placed on unpaid administrative leave until the investigation is resolved. 3, avoid the conflict of interest that comes with OEE, solely leading such investigations by fully cooperating with an independent investigation of the claims brought forward by survivors. Hence, Rutgers would allow independent investigators full access to any and all relevant information in each case. The independent investigators will be chosen by a committee of democratically elected undergraduates, graduates, and staff. 4, require OEE to follow through with their policy of providing the survivor with an update on their case in 60 calendar days at risk of penalty. 5, ensure that OEE Title IX findings do not be used to retaliate against a survivor. Avoid putting the survivor's educational and professional and or scholarly future at risk. 6, provide a semester of funding to graduate students who need to find a new advisor as a result of the independent and or OEE investigation. 7, require the Sexual Harassment Prevention Committee at Rutgers to conduct a mandatory yearly climate survey on harassment for each academic department on its 3 main campuses as well as any satellite campuses, and to publish the results as to ensure they are accessible to the general public. 8, allow 5 delegates and end assault at Rutgers to sit on the Sexual Harassment Prevention Committee at Rutgers. We urge Rutgers University to address the concerns as soon as possible in order to cultivate a university committed to ensuring survivors are provided adequate support to resume their lives. Thank you so much for your time, and I'd like to provide this letter with our demands to President Barchi, please.
Thank you for your eloquent and important remarks. Without commenting on the specific case, know that we all take all such allegations very seriously. We're grateful for you making this report today. All of you, thank you very much. I have a second for Dr. Roper's motion, please. Thank you. Any discussion? Would you like to say anything about anything in this one? All those in favor of Dr. Roper's motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you.
That concludes my report, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Roper. Next, the Committee on Health Affairs, Dr. Dorothy Cantor, Chairperson.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I struck before when you said that Chairman Stewart is under the weather. I think I'm in the weather. And I apologize for not being there in person. The Committee on Health Affairs met on January 31st. We first heard a presentation from Dr. Frank Cananti, President and Chief Executive Officer of University Behavioral Health Care and University Correctional Health Care. And he cited 2 matters that require the committee's endorsement to move forward to the board government approval. The minutes of the University Behavioral Health Care Leadership Committee meeting of October 23rd, 2018 and November 20, 2018. And secondly, the University Behavioral Health Care staff appointments, reappointments, and clinical privileges of November 20, 2018 and December 18, 2018. These 2 matters were endorsed by the committee and will be used under the consent agenda. Then Dr. Cananti provided a brief overview of the UBHC Executive Leadership Meeting and reviewed important topics discussed at these meetings, including a grant received from the Nicholson Foundation, additional funding for behavioral health integration programs, and a new child and adolescent pastoral program on the Piscataway campus. His presentation was followed by one from Mr. James Breeding, the Executive Director of Risk Management, who reviewed the University's Department of Risk Management and the University's insurance program. He specifically discussed the university's medical malpractice insurance and reviewed the university's actuarial estimates as well as historical and pending cases. At each meeting, or many of our meetings, we hear from a presentation from a Chancellor Scholar, from somebody who has been selected by Chancellor Strom. And this time we heard from Dr. Manuel Jimenez, Assistant Professor in the Department of Pediatrics and Family Medicine and Community Health. And he discussed his early experience with health shape his career and highlighted his work as a medical student at Robert Johnson Medical School. He then described his current work to understand the relationship between early childhood adverse experience and development and behavioral outcomes, and review the partnership with the Graduate School of Education to offer family literacy programs that can be administered in community mental health centers. Chancellor Strom himself reported, he provided a progress report on RBHS for fiscal year 19, including 2 leadership appointments and research is currently underway. He specifically discussed Dr. Robert Johnson, Dean of the Rutgers New Jersey Medical School, recent appointment as interim dean physician for Robert Johnson Medical School. He also provided an overview of RBHS's budget, discussed fundraising at RBHS, updated the committee on the ongoing labor negotiations, and detailed the Rutgers RWJ Life and Star program. In this Kathleen Brown, our Senior Vice President of Finance and Administration, then reviewed financial performance for fiscal year 19 and detailed the key revenues and expenses within the budget. And finally, we heard a clinical update from Dr. Vicente Gracia, Senior Vice President of Clinical Affairs. And he provided an update on Rutgers Health Group. He reviewed patient experience initiatives and provided an overview of clinical practice and health education integration updates, as well as updates on other health affairs initiatives. Dr. Brunswick concluded by highlighting key performance indicators for Rutgers Health Group. And that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kenter. We are on to the Committee on Audit. Chairperson Ms. Heather Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Committee on Audit met on Thursday, February 10, 2019. There were matters presented for action which included the following. Ms. Shelley Massey, KPMG Lead Engagement Partner, and her colleagues discussed KPMG's engagement letter to provide professional services for the purpose of examining the university's financial statements, performing agreed-upon procedures for the Intercollegiate Athletics Program and U.S. Environmental Protection Letter, and delivering other audit services for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2018. They also provided a summary of other reports and letters in progress. The committee unanimously agreed to endorse the reappointment of KPMG LLP as the university's external auditors and engage KPMG to perform audit services for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2019. However, this endorsement is conditional pending the finalization of the university's June 30, 2018 financial statement, and those are still on hold pending information required from the state. This resolution will come back to the board in April for final approval. Other matters presented during the meeting included the following. Mr. Michael J. Gower, Executive Vice President for Finance and Administration and University Treasurer, reviewed a report on professional services greater than $100,000 paid by Rutgers during the fiscal year ended June 30, 2018. He categorized the payments as either recurring or non-recurring and noted all items, both vendors and amounts, were as expected. Mr. James Breeding, Executive Director of Risk Management, then gave the committee an overview of the medical malpractice program at the university. He explained their agreement with the state of New Jersey and provided statistics on incident coverage and open claims for fiscal 2018. Ms. Michelle Noren, Senior Vice President and Chief Information Officer, provided the committee with a brief update on cybersecurity, noting no major incidents to report. She also discussed two key areas of focus for the Office of Information Technology, which included two-factor authentication and efforts to combat phishing attacks. Mr. Gower presented an update on the Cornerstone initiative. He discussed the upcoming conversion to a new HR payroll system and the selection process for a new student information system. Mr. Gower also commented on recent improvements made to the services available to students, such as a new online portal and the transition to a one-stop shop in campus. Mr. Timothy Fournier, Senior Vice President and Chief Risk, Ethics, and Compliance Officer, provided an update on the activities within university ethics and compliance. He highlighted upgrades to two compliance systems in use, which included Ethics Armor and Ethics Point. Mr. Fournier also provided an overview of the differences and opportunities for collaboration between internal audit and the compliance department. Ms. Ruth Stevens, Chief Audit Executive, presented 8 audit reports to the committee, covering 5 NCAA compliance audits, a review of the payment card data industry, a review of hourly payments within the Rutgers Business School, and a review of operations within the Mason Gross School of the Arts Music Department. Ms. Stevens also discussed her department's increased involvement in investigations and the follow-up efforts for monitoring the implementation of past recommendations. The committee then met in private session with KPMG, followed by audit and advisory services, then by management, and finally by University Ethics and Compliance and OGC. Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you very much, Ms. Taylor. Next, we are on to the Committee on Finance and Facilities. Governor William Tambusi, would you please make a report to the committee?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Committee on Finance and Facilities met on January 29th. There are 2 matters for action that occurred as a result of that meeting. First, Mr. Captator presented for endorsement the proposed resolution approving provides on-campus services and programs to children and teens with autism and wants to expand these services to include adults who work independently within the university setting. Mr. Capano is requesting up to $9.5 million with funding from gifts raised for this project. Endowment funding will help support ongoing operating costs, and the program is expected to be self-supporting moving forward. Mr. Chair, I move the resolution found under tab B.
Is there a second? Thank you. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Back to you, Governor Tambusi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The second matter for action, Mr. Gower and Mr. Fay presented a proposed resolution approving funding for Phase 3 project for the Administrative and Student Information Systems Initiative. Phase 3 will continue the cornerstone work to modernize and improve business processes associated with these systems. The estimated cost is $40.17 million, funded by the internal bank using commercial paper or other issues. Mr. Chair, I move the resolution found under tab C.
Thank you very much, Governor Tambusi. Before the second, I would call on a speaker who has asked to address us. First, Ms. Deborah Schiff, Research Teaching Specialist at the Rutgers Cancer Institute of Education.
My name is Deborah Schiff. I'm a researcher and a lab manager at Rutgers CINJ, and I am a member of HPAE Local 5094. Thank you for allowing me to speak on Agenda Item 13B. Although I don't work with patients, it's common for patients to wander into my lab, lost and confused. Some are often so ill that I need to find them a wheelchair. Last November, a confused RWJ Barnabas heart patient walked across the bridge and collapsed in my lab. Our medical resident stayed with him while I searched for a wheelchair. No wheelchairs were to be found. I emailed leadership about this problem and received a polite thank you. 4 days after this incident, a cancer patient, a thin, frail woman in horrific pain, tears rolling down her face, collapsed in front of the elevator. Once again, no wheelchairs were to be found. What was so upsetting to me is that one of the people I emailed, the patient liaison, walked past the prostrated woman and did nothing. I called out the liaison's name and indicated we needed help. I received a head nod and nothing else. Eventually, a nurse helped me to pick the patient up off the floor. We put her in a lab chair on wheels, and she was brought downstairs to her appointment. My email calling for wheelchairs was sent in November. It's now February, and we still have no wheelchairs on the 3rd floor. A friend of mine who lives only 1.5 miles from our institute was recently diagnosed with breast cancer. She chose Princeton UPenn for treatment because she heard they have a spa-type atmosphere. In order to remain a competitive healthcare provider in New Jersey, we need, in addition to wheelchairs, a well-paid, dedicated staff of physicians, APNs, nurses, and social workers. And as Rutgers employees, we need to know that our jobs are protected under the Rutgers RWJ Barnabas Partnership. Good energy begets good energy. RCINJ should care about its patients and staff and show it in big and small ways. It would be wise to reinstate the alternative medicine umbrella of care, to offer patients and the worried well hot tea and coffee, and to provide patients with warming blankets who are waiting for rides on cold days. Let's make our patients feel like they're going to a spa and not to just a medical facility. These small measures will help to keep us competitive and will provide a good return on investment. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Schiff, for your eloquent remarks. Without commenting on any ongoing negotiations or salary matters, I would tell you that we're particularly grateful for your commentary on the wheelchair situation. Mr. President, with your permission, I would ask Dr. Strong if you would have one of his people look into that and let me know.
Absolutely, I was actually just emailing Kim to ask to see if we can get copies of the remarks and they will follow.
Excellent. Thank you very, very much. Thank you. Is Mr. Stephen Babatunde here? Okay. Thank you. We are now on to a second for Governor Cambusi's motion. Thank you, Mr. Roper. Any discussion? All in favor of Governor Cambusi's motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Carries unanimously. Governor Brown, Chairman of the Committee on Intercollegiate Athletics, report of your committee, please.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. The Committee on Intercollegiate Athletics met once in January, the first time on January 9th, which was a special teleconference. At that meeting, Mr. Hobbs reviewed the proposed employment contract for assistant football coach Andrew Booth, who will serve as the defensive coordinator. This contract was subsequently approved by the Board of Governors. The second meeting was January 30th. We met for just under 3 hours. After personally welcoming the committee into the conduct, Secretary of the University reviewed the confidentiality and conflicts of interest policies and asked members if anyone had a conflict of interest to report. No conflict were reported. Mr. Paul Perrier, Senior Associate Athletic Director and Chief Compliance Officer, provided the committee with a compliance update. He began by informing the committee of new NCAA requirements regarding mental health and certain expectations in terms of educational resources required for student athletes. He also reviewed the NCAA rules and regulations regarding gambling in anticipation at the time of the NFL League, National Football League Super Bowl. Mr. Perrier then updated the committee of the 2-year probationary period placed on the university by the NCAA and stated that his office is working closely with the Office of Enterprise Risk Management, Ethics, and Compliance to ensure the university is meeting all requirements. Mr. Michael Zuhl, Senior Associate Athletic Director, Director for Finance, Administration, and Planning, then provided a budget update for the committee. Ms. Sarah Baumgartner, Deputy Director of Athletics, provided an update on the College Sports Solutions Action Plan to review the major recommendations within the CCS report, which included recent changes to the division concession partners, restructuring of fundraising staff, new membership models for the Audi Club, the addition of premium seating to various venues, including the RAP. He also discussed revenue opportunities and reviewed current agreements for media rights, athletic apparel, and sideline efforts. He then reviewed potential cost-saving opportunities, including regional scheduling for non-conference games and potential cost savings regarding travel expenses. Ms. Carly Northrop, Senior Associate Athletic Director and Associate Vice President for Development, provided the committee with information regarding the Audi Club membership model. We reviewed the plan structure with regard to tax deductibility, ticket cost, exclusivity of the club, and amenities offered, and explained the benefits provided at each level of the membership. Dr. Richard Edwards, University Professor and Chair of Athletic Academic Oversight Committee, AAOC, reviewed the report of the National committee then moved into executive session to discuss personnel and staff structure issues, and then the meeting was adjourned at approximately 11:45, and that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Brown. I would now call on Governor William Best for a motion on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Are there any items that the members want to remove from the consent agenda? Upon recommendation of the Committee of Academic and Student Affairs and Committee on Health Affairs, Mr. Chairman, I move that the board approve the items contained in the consent agenda.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? It carries unanimously. Thank you. I now call on Executive Vice President Gower for his presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Joint Committee on Investments met via conference call on December 21st, 2018 to consider a private equity investment, which was endorsed. The details of this are available in the minutes of the committee that are in board materials. That is my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Gower. Finally, I call on Dr. Gillette for the report on the University Senate, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy New Year to all listeners. The Executive Committee plans the business of the Senate, considering and issuing charges to committees, receiving reports, and documenting them for full Senate debate. The Executive Committee has met twice since my last report to you. On January 11th, the Executive Committee discussed a proposed charge on follow-up by Rutgers and the University Senate on completed unit mergers or other structural changes. This charge was not issued in the form originally proposed, but the Chair and Vice Chair were asked to draft a revised version, which has now been issued, calling on the University Structure and Governance Committee to consider how Rutgers and the University Senate can assess the results and effectiveness of each completed process for merger, dissolution, or structural change to any university unit that has been approved by the Senate. Consider the impact of the completed changes to the unit, whether the expected benefits and results were achieved, and the university and the unit benefited thereby. Consider what further follow-up is necessary and codify that process. Recommend the process for deliberate, consultative reporting and feedback so that all issues, impacts, concerns, and benefits can be properly considered on a timely basis. On February the 1st, the Executive Committee met in Camden, where it toured the Welcome Centre, Alumni House, and Writers' House, and had a lunch meeting with Chancellor Hammond. The Executive Committee approved in principle the NJ Per concept plan for a referendum in fall 2019 on a proposed fee of $11.20 and passed it on to the President's office. Also, proposals were made and discussed for names of faculty to be recommended to the Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs with regard to the forthcoming evaluation of Chancellor Council. The recommendations are due to be submitted to Senior Vice President P shortly. No further new charges were issued. The main work of the Senate is carried out by its other committees and panels. At present, the standing committees have before them 19 pending charges in addition to their standing charges. Details are available to you online. The Rutgers University Senate has met twice since my last report to you. On December the 7th, it received the RBHS Chancellor's Report and an administrative report delivered by Senior Vice President Barbara A. Lee. In addition, it received reports from the University Structure and Governance Committee on size and composition of the Senate, which was introduced for the first time but not debated or voted upon as is customary for such matters. And from Senior Vice President for University Relations, Kimberly Manning, on the Rutgers identity. On January the 25th, the Senate met in New Brunswick, where it received an administrative report by President Barchi, which was followed by a committee of the whole discussion on the University Senate's approach to shared governance at Rutgers. In addition, it received a report from the University Structure and Governance Committee on size and composition of the Senate, which was debated and rejected by the Senate. The time originally allotted for this Senate meeting was then reached, and the Senate voted not to extend the time to allow consideration of further business, which is now to be taken up at the next meeting. The Senate meets again this Friday, February the 15th, in Newark, Weather Goals Committee. This concludes my report.
there any additional business, either old or new, that any governor would like to bring before this committee? Hearing none, we are adjourned.